Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jackie from Jackie's Lost on a Book Haul. And I thought I would film a video that I've seen done quite a few times, and that is, if you like this, then you'll like that. So I thought I would do the book edition, saying if you like this book, then you'll like this movie, or in one case, I mentioned a TV show. So I'm going to start with some of these, at least two of these I don't have the TV show, a copy of the movie or the TV show. So I thought I would do those first. So if you liked Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, I think you would like Now You See Me, which is a movie. Now, most people usually compare this to Ocean's 11, but I decided not to do that. I decided to do something different and compare it to something else. So, if by chance you don't have any idea what this is about, it's about a group of criminals who are hired to go on a heist to retrieve this scientist that is kept in a high-power prison because he recently invented a drug that is for the people, the magic users in this world, the Grisha, and it amplifies their powers, makes them stronger. But when they crash, they die. And it's up to these guys to find the scientist and get rid of the drug. So, Now You See Me is a movie about a group of illusionists who kind of play Robin Hood during their magic show, where while people are being dazzled by their magic, they will rob banks and give the money to the people. Give the money back to the people. And one of the banks they rob, the bank manager hires a man who exposes illusionists. And the FBI, and also the FBI is looking for these group of illusionists as well. Now, I feel like they're completely different stories, and the magic system in the movie Now You See Me is not real magic; it's illusion magic. And in this world, they actually use magic. Which is the Grisha, people who have certain special powers. But I feel like they have very similar vibes with the stories. And just it's also, both of them I feel like are a little bit of character studies in a way. They have very individual, immoral characters doing something that actually could be seen as good for the world. Even though they're doing it in a way that's kind of illegal. Like in the case of Six of Crows duology, they are breaking a scientist out of a prison, and then Now You See Me, they're these illusionists using their show to distract people while they rob a bank. And so, but like I said, in the movie, they're not just robbing the bank; they're giving the money from the bank back to the people. And in this one, and in this duology, they are protecting the Grisha people. They are still trying to get rid of, or at least, if they can't destroy it, they're at least trying to get rid of this drug that can cause harm to the people, to the Grisha people. And it can also harm the normal people, because the Grisha, if they're more powerful, then they could potentially kill everybody else. They could, or at least harm them. So I feel like they have very similar vibes, and they're very a race against time, trying to stop, protect people, but, doing it in an unconventional way, and they're trying to get it done before they get caught. And, like I said, both, I think, are a bit of character studies. You're looking at individual characters. So they feel very similar to me. Okay, so then the next one, I gotta get up and get it. That I want to talk about is, if you like the Shadowhunters Chronicles, which this is the one of the novellas, then you will like Charmed, the TV show Charmed by Aaron. It's a show by Aaron Spelling. Now, the Shadowhunter Chronicles is, about, it's a fantasy series about a group of individuals known as the Shadowhunters who will protect the mundane world from, demons and vampires and werewolves and fairies who are trying to mess with it. And they are part angel and call themselves either Shadowhunters or Nephilim. And she has several series. She has 2 more series coming out. And 2 novellas, this being one of the novellas. Like, the first series that she wrote was about this girl, Clary, who is actually part of one of the famous, well-known Shadowhunter families, but because of what happened back in the past with her mom, she has been taken out of this world and knows nothing about this world. She's been raised as a mundane, which are the people that don't have magic or aren't Shadowhunters. And Clary, after witnessing a boy that turns out to be a demon getting killed, she kind of gets mixed up in this whole Shadowhunter world, and she becomes friends with Jace Wayland, who is kind of this cocky, badass, arrogant young man. And the 2 of them form this connection and start to fall for each other. And then you have 2 siblings, Isabel and Alec Lightwood, and there's a little bit, they deal with some things like Alec happens to be gay, and it's basically about them defeating the demons, and then there's all this stuff, and of course it's a fantasy series, so things go wrong and get all crazy and stuff, and it's also about Clary reconnecting to this world and adapting to it, and training to become a Shadowhunter, even though her mom does not want her to be part of this world. And then the second series that she wrote was a trilogy, actually, not a series, about this American girl named Tessa, who comes to England, and her brother is missing, and she's not actually a Shadowhunter, but she is a warlock, and she, along with her brother, get mixed up in this whole crazy, world, and she finds out her brother is in over his head, and someone's trying to, take over Britain and stuff like. It's been a while. Unfortunately, I did donate that trilogy because I didn't know if I would ever read it again. I mean, it was great, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed, and I did want to read it, but at the time I was thinking, am I going to read it again? And besides the fact that the library has the Shadowhunter books, so I could always get it there and borrow it if I want to reread it. And then she also has the novella The Bane Chronicles, which is about one of the popular characters, Magnus Bane. He's a warlock, he's funny, he's charming, he's a very lovable character, and a lot of people are huge fans of him. And he dates Alec in the series. And so she has those novellas about all his crazy adventures and stuff. And then she has this series of novellas, which is about one of the characters, Simon, who is Clary's best friend. And he, of course, also gets mixed up in the world as well. And then and then she has 2 more series coming out. One of the series is about some side characters that were mentioned in one of the Mortal Instruments books. And then the other one is about characters from the Infernal Devices books. And I said, and if you like this, you will like Charmed, which is a series which ended back in, I think, 2008 was when it ended. It still will play reruns. It's on Netflix, and it will play reruns on TNT. It's about a group of 3 sisters who are known as the Chosen Ones. They are the Charmed Ones. They are sister witches. You have the oldest one, Prue, who has the power of telekinesis, and eventually her powers grow when she is able to astral project herself. And then you have the middle sister, Piper, who's one of my favorites, and she can freeze time, and eventually she's able to blow things up as well. And then you have Phoebe, the youngest, who is my number 1 favorite of the trio. And, well, actually, it later becomes, because Prue, unfortunately, she ends up getting killed at the end of season 3, and they find that they have a half-sister, Paige, because her mom got involved with her White Lighter, who is a guardian angel. Who is kind of the White Lighters are kind of the guardian angels of witches. They're kind of like They kind of play a similar role to familiars, but they actually can physically guide them and protect the witches. And so they introduced that character, and she's played by Rose McGowan, and Prue is played by Shannon Doherty from 90210 fame. And Rose McGowan was from like movies like Jawbreaker, and she recently played a young Cora in Once Upon a Time. But of course, that was back when I was still watching the show. So I feel they are the chose, and so Phoebe is the youngest, and she has the power of premonitions, but eventually she's able to levitate. And she also, because her powers aren't like, they're not like telekinesis or blowing things up or anything, so she can fight. She trains in like certain like combat and boxing and those kind of and these three sisters are like the Shadowhunters. They are meant to stop the demons and defeat them and protect the world from demons. And this show deals with, you have the demons, they're the main focus, but you also have the main villain, but you also have like there's fairies in there, which I gotta admit I'm not the hugest fan of their fairy interpretation. And then you have like vampires, or there's a couple episodes that there's a story arc that deals with vampires. There's a magic school, kind of like the institute in the story, which is where they go to school, where in the academy, which is where they train. And then in Charm, they also deal with, like I said, they have fairies, vampires, and I think they have shapeshifters, I believe. So I feel like they deal with a lot of this kind of stuff, and I feel like they're both kind of although the series, Cassandra Clare's books have gotten darker over the years, but I think because it's YA, it's not as dark and gritty as some series. So I feel like, they're just very similar. And I also while I was thinking about this, I also thought that you could also, if you also like this, you might also like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is not the 1980s movie, but the TV series that Josh created later, back in the 90s, which is kind of a similar thing, except for the focus isn't demons. The main bad guy isn't demon, it's actually vampires. And she's like the Slayer, the chosen one, and I feel like both Cassandra Clare's books and Charmed and Buffy kind of deal with that and getting mixed up in this crazy fantasy world, because in Buffy there's also characters that aren't the main protagonists, but they're friends with Buffy, and they kind of get mixed up in the supernatural world as well. I see there are a lot of shows that kind of, I feel like if you like this one, that you would like them. Supernatural is another one about two brothers who fight demons. They're not chosen ones, but although they kind of do, you kind of later realize that they in a way that they are. They're chosen by the angels, but they also fight the forces of evil, particularly demons and vampires and werewolves and shapeshifters and all that. So there are a lot of shows that deal with explore similar themes and the supernatural and magic through the eyes of, people in their 20s and teenagers. Okay, so next, let's see, what else did I talk about next? I guess next I will talk about... Okay, now, I gotta admit, don't hate me on this, but I haven't technically gotten very far in the book that I'm gonna mention next. But I kind of know the basic premise of the story. And that is Night Film by Marsha Pessl. If you like Night Film, I think you might like the movie The Zodiac. So Night Film is about this journalist who discovers about this woman has committed suicide. This woman who's the daughter of a famous filmmaker who makes a lot of creepy, disturbing films has committed suicide. But he's starting to suspect that maybe she didn't actually commit suicide, that maybe there's more to this than you realize, so he starts to investigate. And like I said, I haven't gotten very far, so I can't really say except for that summary. But I feel like just by, you can, even if I haven't read it, I feel like I can kind of compare the two to an extent. So the movie, The Zodiac, if you like night film, then you'll like The Zodiac. Because The Zodiac is about, it's actually based on a true story about a real serial killer in San Francisco. And these three guys, one of them is a police detective, another one is a journalist, and then you have the cartoonist who works at the same newspaper that the journalist works at. And all three guys are trying to investigate and figure out the Zodiac, who the Zodiac killer is, because no one ever found out who he was. You know, they were constantly being given clues about who he might be, and the Zodiac killer just actually really outsmarted these guys. And it's about them trying to figure out, and the cartoonist, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, he gets really close to figuring it out. It's just a really creepy story, I feel like. And for obvious reasons, they're both kind of about trying to figure out the truth, trying to investigate the truth and see what really happened. So that, I mean, like I said, obviously, there's kind of a cheat here because I haven't really gotten very far in the book. It's a book that I do need to read soon. But yeah, so I feel like they could be seen as similar because they're both about trying to figure out the truth and getting involved in someone's possibly a murder. Okay, so next we have, if you liked, this is another one that technically I'm not finished with it, but in this case I've gotten far in this one. I'm like on book 2 of this because it's divided into 2 or 3 books, I think. If you like The Secret History by Donna Tartt, I think you might like Dead Poets Society by Peter Weir, directed by Peter Weir and starring Robin Williams. So this one, The Secret History, is about this young man, Richard, who discovers this well-known college in this special college in Vermont. He decides that's the school he wants to go to. So he gets there, and he decides he wants to study Greek, and he finds a class, but the class is very selective. I mean, there's only like 4 or 5 students in the class, and he has to prove himself worthy to join the class. So he does get in, but these people are kind of very, up in the clouds, nose up in the air. They look down on everybody else, and they don't let anyone else in their little group, but they end up getting in over their heads because they start to take the Greek that they're learning way too seriously. And they're not just learning about the language, they're learning about the culture, and there are dire consequences that happen in the book. While Dead Poets Society is about a group of prep school boys who they receive a new teacher who teaches them about poetry and how poetry is more than just reading like a boring rhyme that happens to sound pretty. This teacher shows them that poetry is a lot more than just reading a bunch of rhyming couplets. It can be full of passion, and it can be beautiful, and it can really inspire you. And the teacher played by Robin Williams, also tells them about when he was a boy in school, when he was a young man in school, he had was part of this club known as the Dead Poets Society, and they just basically explore and read poetry. So these boys decide to secretly meet and create their own Dead Poets Society. Meanwhile, one of the boys, let me see if it says on the back. It doesn't say who plays him, but one of the boys decides that he wants to get involved in the school play that they're putting on, the Midsummer Night's Dream. But his father does not approve of that and doesn't want him anywhere involved in this plan. He wants him to focus on a more productive and practical career. I want to say it's a lawyer. I think his father wants him to be a lawyer or something. And it creates this huge conflict between their teacher, Mr. Keating, and the boy and his father. It gets pretty ugly. So I feel like these are very similar because they're both kind of dealing about young people in prep school. I mean, these boys are in a prestigious college, but still, I feel like it has a similar vibe to that. In how it kind of, there's a fight there's conflict with doing what you're passionate about and doing what's sensible and practical in a certain situation and how you handle that. And the constant battle between the two, being practical and sensible and being, dealing and being, in passion and trying to, balance that. So, and like I said, I feel like they have very similar settings and just, they're both beautiful stories. The writing in this is really, I love Donna Tartt's writing style. I hope to read actually her other book, The Goldfinch, soon. It's taking me a long time because it's a big book, and I'm one of those people that with literary fiction, I can't always 100% focus on it. Sometimes I have to take a break. But yeah, I feel like these have very similar vibes. Okay, so next, sorry, as usual, okay. So next, I want to talk about if you liked the novel Roses by Leah Neacham, then I think you might like Downton Abbey. So, sorry, I left my discount and I want to keep it out so I remember where I'm at in the series. Both are obviously set during the same setting. This one is about a famous family in Texas who they have this cotton plantation that is very important. And the book starts with the family patriarch dying, and in his will he gives the land to his daughter. And this causes problems between the daughter and her brother and mother, because her mom is like, no, he should have given it to me so I could do what I want with it, because she believes she deserved it. And it's how this plantation kind of affects their family and relationship with friends, because the plantation itself, people say it's cursed, and that the people who are devoted to it become obsessed with it, and they prioritize their plantation over everybody else. And it kind of affects their personal lives, and it goes between this, you have two. I'm kind of in the middle of the book. Another one, again, I haven't finished it. It goes back. The first half of the book is about the daughter, and then the daughter, and then the second half of the book will be about her own daughter. And I'm guessing how she becomes obsessed with the plantation and almost risk her personal life because of the plantation. And like I said, Downton Abbey is a series on AMC, I believe, or PBS. Actually, no, I think it's PBS. It takes place, unlike this one, it takes place in Britain. This one takes place in Texas. And it's about this family, the Crawleys, and they will not be able to keep their family estate unless the oldest daughter, because the family patriarch, the family did not have, the mother and father did not have sons, they had only girls. And the oldest daughter cannot inherit her family's estate unless she gets married to someone who is a distant relative of the family, so that they can keep their estate in the family. and it's about her and her relationship with the distant cousin who is the one that she has to marry, Matthew Crawley, and it's about how they try to protect their family's estate with this marriage, and then they experience World War I and how it impacts their lives, and we also look into the lives of the servants of the household and how that affects them and their personal lives. Like I said, it is set during the same time frame. And we actually both the series and the book deal a little bit with World War I and how it affects things and the consequences and how it can impact these families in both the family in both stories. Like I said, the difference, of course, is that one's in England and this one is in Texas, so it's a little different in how they handle things and what their home is to, how they take care of their home. But I feel like they're very similar, and also they explore similar themes. And I feel like both the main character, the main character of the first half is, I guess, yeah, because she will be the main character still in the second half. But I feel like both Mary Tolliver in this book, and then Mary Crawley, same name too, are very similar in personalities. They're very strong, independent women that, don't let anyone walk all over them. And they believe they have a right to run the household. That just because they're female, because, remember, back then, of course, we just got the right to vote in 1920. So women back then were still treated like second-class citizens. And the reason why in the series, in Downton Abbey, the reason why Mary can't inherit is because her grandfather made a stipulation that only the male heir can inherit their estate. So, like I said, she has to get married. And there's this constant judgment on Mary and her desire to run the plantation and take charge of it and deal with all the financial situations. And in the case of this book, I can see both points of view. Like, the plantation will never love Mary back, but at the same time, she deserves a right to want to run this land and prioritize it. And I feel like sometimes they are very judgmental of her and are like, you should do things that women want to do, not running a plantation. Running a plantation is not something a woman wants to do. But at the same time, the plantation will never love Mary back. And but of course in Downton Abbey, it's not necessarily that it doesn't have the exact same problem, but because her father, Mary Crawley's father, is kind of a little like, she's my baby girl, she's my daughter. It comes from a good place, just like it comes from a good place with the guy who wants to marry Mary in this story, and but her father in Downton Abbey, the father is like, no, I don't want to put this responsibility on you. You're my precious little baby. You're my little girl. So you shouldn't have to worry about this kind of stuff. But at the same time, just like Mary Tolliver, Mary Crawley can handle herself. And she wants to be taken seriously. She doesn't want to be treated like his precious little girl. She wants to prove that she can run the estate and take charge, and that she knows what she's talking about. But she's also very devoted and loyal to her father. And Mary, in this story, does feel horribly guilty, when it comes to her mom, and doesn't want her mom to hate her, and doesn't want her brother to hate her either. So, like I said, they both deal with World War I. They both are set during the same time period, and both Mary Tolliver and Mary Crawley are very similar characters. And another one that's very similar to this is also Gone with the Wind. I feel like Gone with the Wind is very similar to it as well. But like I said, I've already made my comparison. So that's it. If you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for listening. Alright, bye.